Hey guys, Shady here with the second part of setting up for the win in Cultist Simulator. If you followed everything in the first video, then you're ready to start a cult. When I start the cult, it is going to create a notoriety card, but I haven't generated any mystique yet, so the notoriety won't get picked up by the investigation, so I'm going to be safe there. And I'm going to found the cult with the Lantern Forge card since my ascension is enlightenment. After the cult's formed, then I'm going to start talking using a lore card to get either recruits or patrons. And each time you do that, that is going to generate mystique. And I want the mystique to get picked up by the investigation at this point because I want a hunter card. And the reason I want that hunter is because right now we have no reliable way to generate dread. We're eventually going to get a fascination card and we have to counter that with a dread card. If Moth pops up, it could give us a restlessness card. The only quick and reliable way to generate dread at this point is to talk to a hunter, then as the subject, use a winner lore card. That will always create a dread card, but it's always going to create a notoriety card too. It's kind of a trade-off in that manner, but you do need a way to create dread. Now, once the hunter's been added to the board, I'm going to shift gears and I'm going to slow way down, and I mean really slow. This will be the slowest portion of the game for me, the recruiting process. I won't talk about any lore until the investigation pops up, and that's because I don't want to provide the hunter with any mystique. Mystique on its own is not supposed to be a threat because the hunter can't use it to generate evidence. But if you provide them with enough mystique, there's always a chance. It says it's uncommon that a hunter will generate evidence without notoriety, but it can happen. So I want to try to limit the amount of mystique that I'm putting out there right now. What I'll do is I'll wait till the investigation box pops up. Once it pops up, then I'll talk using the lore card, and I'm going to either get the recruit or the patron. If I get a patron, I'm going to just move them off to the side over here. If I get a recruit, I'm going to go ahead and induct them into the cult. Then I'm going to wait till the investigation cycle starts again. Hopefully the mystique that I created before has ran its course by the time the investigation pops up. But again, there's the possibility it won't, and the hunter is going to pick that up. Regardless, I'm going to talk using lore to get another recruit or another patron. Or you possibly could get a rumor card. Don't use a rumor card because those will generate notoriety. This process of waiting for the investigation to pop up, then looking for recruits is going to take a long time. Because before we can move on to the next step, you need all 4 patrons and you need 2 named recruits from each aspect. So you need 2 cult members with Edge, 2 with Moth, 2 with Knock, and so on and so forth for a total of 16 cult members. Now, while you're waiting for the investigation to pop up, some things you can be doing in the meantime is generating funds through the position at the Institute. You can also go ahead and talk to the patrons, get their commissions, and work and complete the commissions, but don't turn them in. Hold on to the commission cards. I just move those cards right over beside them. Another thing you can do is you can promote your believers and your pawns. Randomly, you're going to get a Consciousness of Radiance card. If you get that card, you can move your cult card to talk, move a pawn or a believer card to the associate slot, move your lantern card in as the ceremony, then use that radiance card in the trapping slot. And the person will be upgraded, and that's going to give them better aspect abilities. Now, ideally, what should happen just by waiting to talk on lore until the investigation begins, it should limit the amount of mystique the hunter is going to get, and you should be able to get all your recruits without triggering an investigation. And then we move on to the last part of the strategy. Well, that's not what happened to me in this playthrough. And I'm happy that it happened that way because it didn't happen in the other 3 playthroughs that I did. And, you know, this could happen to you. And I'm pretty sure it happened because my hunter this time is Spencer Hobson. In my other playthroughs, I had the detective as my hunter, and he seems to be somewhat lackadaisical in his investigation efforts. Well, Spencer, after only getting 5 mystique cards, he created evidence. And from this point forward in the game, the 2 things you don't want on the board are notoriety and evidence, and you don't want those on the board at the same time. Those 2 things could very easily end your game. So at any time one of those cards gets put on the board, we're going to attempt to burn them out by flooding the board with mystique. That way, when the investigation box pops up, it will have to keep picking up those mystique cards, and that's going to give notoriety and the evidence cards time to run out. So to generate mystique, I'm going to start turning in commissions. For each person you turn in a commission, that's going to generate a mystique card. Now I'm going to start painting. I'll take the Vivid Imagination skill card, move that to work, then I'm going to add a mystique card. Next, I'll drag one of my believer cards in to use as a subject. It doesn't matter which one. Then when it asks for paints, I'm going to use a funds card. Now, once this completes, it most likely is going to generate more mystique. Not always, though. Sometimes it will only generate glimmering, or it could generate erudition. But there is a pretty good chance that it's going to generate mystique. Now, I'll paint again, and the same thing, and I'm going to generate even more mystique. Once the evidence card has ran its course, then I'll stop painting and I'll stop creating mystique. The investigation is going to keep picking up all the mystique until it's all gone off the board, and then all we can do is just sit and watch, and hopefully another evidence card's not created. If it is, then I'm going to have to repeat this whole process again. Now, in my case, this jerk Dobson, he did create another evidence card, so I had to keep painting and creating mystique. But the second time I did this, the timer ran out on the evidence, and he didn't create evidence for the third time. So then I just reset to prepare for the next time. I go ahead and talk to the patrons to get their commissions again, complete those commissions, and move them off to the side. I'll sell the Spentria that I got from completing the commissions at the auction house, then to recover some of my funds. So eventually I was able to recruit the rest of my cult, 2 from each aspect. It did take a really long time, but after that incident with Hobson where he created the evidence, he didn't generate any more after that. It did kind of slow me down, but I'm now ready to move into the last part of this strategy. So our goal is to upgrade our lore cards and find treasure that's going to allow us to perform a rite and win the game. And to get those additional books and items that we need, we're going to have to go on expeditions. Now, when I first started playing the game, I was just sending my people out on expedition after expedition. And I was unaware of what repercussions that would have, and ultimately it resulted in me losing the game. From here on out, these are going to be my main steps that I'm going to repeat time after time. First, I'm going to explore Secret Histories lore, and that's going to provide me with a location to send an expedition to. The higher the level of the lore, the higher the level the expedition will be. Next, if I haven't already, I'm going to talk to each one of the patrons. I'm going to work on the commissions, complete the commissions that I'm able to right now, and take those completed commissions and move them off to the side. I won't turn them in right now. These guys are not a way to make money for me. They're going to be my way to quickly generate mystique when I need it. So I need to have completed commissions available at all times ready to go. Next, I'm going to have one of my followers explore, and I want them to find someone to hire. I don't really care who they find, just as long as they find somebody, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hire this person. Now, before that first hireling's timer runs out, I'm going to send another follower out to explore, find someone else to hire, and I'll hire that person. Now I'm going to move the location card into Explore, and I'll move the hirelings in as leader and the assistant. And the reason I do this is I don't know what challenges I'm going to be facing in this location. And if I fail, at least 2 people are going to die. And the first 2 to die will be the leader and the assistant. So by placing those 2 hirelings first, I'm in no danger of losing one of my followers. Once the expedition starts, I can then click down here on these little boxes and I can see what the trial is going to be. And it's going to tell me up here what I need to pass this trial. Then I can add the followers as needed with the appropriate skills to pass the trial. If there are more than one trial, and there will be when you get to more difficult expeditions, they're not always going to be in order, but you can get a pretty good idea by reading the narrative what's going to be first, and then you can add your followers as you need to. If there's terrain and then there's a door, you can be pretty sure that the terrain is going to be first. Now, as the expedition continues, I'm going to add more followers as needed to pass the challenges. But once I get to this portion that says the treasure lies ahead, I know I've completed the expedition. I'm going to get the treasure, but every time I complete an expedition, I'm going to generate notoriety. And we already know we don't want that notoriety to get picked up by the investigation, so we have to prepare to burn it out. So when I get to that portion in the expedition that says a treasure lies ahead, I'm going to start turning in my commissions to generate mystique. Then I'm going to work with the vivid imagination card to paint while adding mystique to start flooding the board with more mystique. Once the expedition is over, the notoriety card will hit the board, and I'm going to keep painting and generating mystique until that notoriety card is gone. Then it's just a matter of waiting till the investigation is over, and again, hopefully no evidence is created and I'm safe. And that's going to be the procedure from here on out. Do the commissions, put them off to the side, explore a piece of Secret Histories lore to get a location, hire 2 hirelings, go to the expedition, then start generating mystique to cover up the notoriety. It is a long process, especially since you have to do it each time you do an expedition. And it's not always going to work. Sometimes evidence is going to get generated regardless. You may run into a situation like I did here, that evidence was created while I was doing an investigation, so notoriety and evidence ended up being on the board at the same time. So it may feel like you're going through all these steps for nothing, but if you start pushing your luck and you start leaving notoriety and evidence on the board without attempting to cover them up and remove them from the game will key off of that, and it will start coming at you harder to get those cards and end your game. There are other ways to deal with notoriety and evidence. You can have a follower with hard aspect attempt to remove a notoriety card, but it's not guaranteed that they'll remove it, and it's not guaranteed that they'll grab the card off the board before the investigation. You can have a cult follower with the moth aspect attempt to destroy tentative evidence. Again, it's not guaranteed that they'll destroy it, and if they fail, you could lose the follower and they could create notoriety. And finally, you could send a cult follower with edge aspect to just kill the hunter. Again, not guaranteed. You could lose the follower, you could generate notoriety, and another hunter could just take their place. So these may seem like a quick and easy way to deal with the situation, but they could dig you into a deeper hole. The most surefire way I found to deal with these cards is by flooding the board with mystique to try to cover the cards up. And finally, if you do run out of Secret Histories lore cards to get more, then all you have to do is dream your way to any of the doors you've found your way through and find them there. So I hope you guys found this video useful. If you did, please hit that thumbs up button. Until next time, I will talk to you later. Have a good one.
Yeah, Shady Wags got your back. It's so entertaining. You need to subscribe to Got Your Back gaming gameplay and reviews, even doing walkthroughs. This the best gaming channel. I'm just telling you the truth. PS4, Xbox One, or even PC. Plenty tips, all the tricks. This is just what you need.